I'm Emma, and if you're planning on watching Star Trek Picard, you can pause the video here and come back afterwards. Or you can keep watching if you don't mind spoilers, that's fine by me. Star Trek Picard's got a fair bit of hate from fans of the Star Trek franchise, which I guess I understand where they're coming from, because I was fully expecting to hate it. Mainly because I can't pretend like Star Trek Nemesis doesn't exist anymore. Because I realized that they'd be mentioning Data in the show, and once they mention him, his death would be solidified. But yeah, I actually enjoy the show. It's got a lot of good parts. Good story, good characters. It's really enjoyable. Except for the last episode of season 1, which is what I'll be ranting about. Another reason I thought I'd hate it was because prequels, sequels, and other forms of retconning tend to destroy the memories of something you love. One of the things that make the show actually work is the fact that it's not trying to be the next generation, which I'm sure a lot of people were afraid of. It's got its own identity as sort of a mystery, crime-solving adventure where Picard defies his brain abnormality to honor Data's legacy. Him and his ragtag team of misfits need to do some detective work in order to figure out who's trying to kill the two androids, Dash and Soji. It's like one of the holodeck adventures, which I always found to be really exciting and fun. I was hooked right away, to be honest. It's clear right from the start that Picard is the main character, and he's already well established and well liked. Could have gone downhill pretty fast, but the other characters actually add something to the mix, despite him being the star of the show. They're well fleshed out, they had a life before Picard showed up, and they're interesting. You like them, you care for them, and you want them to succeed. They got a scientist, Agnes, pilot, Rios, former Starfleet officer, Buffy, warrior, Elnor, the android Soji, and 7 of 9, which was pretty unexpected. That's nice. Short summary of the plot is basically that the secret Romulan society, the Shatvash, is scouring the universe in an attempt to exterminate all the synthetic life forms. Why? Because a doomsday recording said that otherwise the synths are going to destroy the universe. Around 80% of the Shatvash members that saw that recording went insane, scratching their eyes out insane. Picard ends up in this mess when one of the synthetic life forms, named Dash, ends up on his doorstep looking for help. She doesn't quite know what she is or how she ended up where she is, and before they can kind of untangle that web, she's killed in front of Picard. It's sad. So he decides to find her twin in order to help her, so she doesn't end up in the same fate as Dash did. He also has to find her homeworld, so the other synths don't end up the same way either. And apart from the main plot, there are also several subplots, which is nice to spice things up a bit. Like, for example, Soji's boyfriend, Marek, turning out to be a Romulan spy and then leaving her for dead. She's probably less nice for her, though. Before Picard's managed to assemble a crew and head off into space along with them, we get to see what it's like on Earth. And I think this is an important part in sci-fi, because we need to kind of be able to gauge where the technology is at and what we can reasonably expect out of the universe. So that's a nice touch. With the world building in mind, and with several plotlines worth exploring further, I'm guessing we were all expecting a proper payoff. And instead of giving us that, they wrapped up most of the plotlines in the same episode. The last episode of the season is written like someone's afraid of running out of pages in their notebook. And in all fairness, I'm guessing they were afraid the show would get cancelled before they could tie up the loose ends. The culmination of our time together with the characters we've learned to care for is all over the place. And it's not even that they wrapped it up in a bad way, because they could have delivered basically the same content without making us feel cheated afterwards. It's just the way in which they did it. They dealt with several plot lines all in one episode, all of which deserved a lot more time to unravel. The season finale should have been at least 4 episodes long to really deal with everything in it and do the story justice. And I'll try to explain my reasoning in a semi-structured list, starting with: it was hinted right from the start that Narek would turn to the good side, or at least stray away from the dark side. They built up to it in tiny pieces, and at some point you expected it to kind of lead somewhere. But instead, he had his redemption arc mostly off screen. I almost feel more betrayed by that than by him seemingly leaving Soji to die. If you're going to give a character redemption, they at least deserve to be recognized for it in a meaningful way. But Narek just risked his life and didn't get anything from it. Unless you count the death of his sister as a reward, because he got that. Soji's treated in a somewhat similar way, except hers is even dumber, because she's gone through a lot of character development throughout the show. But then she starts wobbling because people tell her all human bad. She suddenly comes to her senses without any further exploration of her reasoning. Nguyen Soong apparently had an actual son, not just Data, Law, and the abomination that was before. Nguyen spawned a human called Alton Inigo, and he's also an unhinged scientist that creates androids, but it's not the carbon copy element of his character that offends the senses, or even that his initials are AI. No, it's the fact that he unexpectedly decides to kill all of humanity, and then just as randomly decides against it. I could totally buy into his reasoning if they showed us his thought process, but they just gloss over it, like it's completely normal to sometimes want to rid yourself of all of humanity. Moving on to the main core of the show, at least how I see it. Data's proper sending off. I've been seething about the way they tear-jerked him into oblivion ever since I saw Nemesis, and having his death actually addressed in a loving manner was nice. The way they did it though, yikes. It's nice and all that Picard's able to speak with him and that they actually have a moment. It's a really nice moment, but the implications of that meeting, to me it's not a friends reuniting to say goodbye moment. Rather it's a he's been alone in there for years moment. That's really sad and makes me feel hollow. We finally get our emotional send-off, but at what cost? Data deserved so much better than what it was given, and I kinda get the feeling that the people that made Star Trek Picard thought so as well. But then they do this. Was this what they'd planned for Pinocchio all along? Or was this some sort of panic button for if they thought the show would get cancelled? So, in order to talk to a dead character, Picard had to die, which is brain abnormality, so too. And I honestly don't know what to say about this one. They illustrated that the android colony had technology so advanced that it could fix a ship with visual thinking, which isn't a joke, it's something that actually happened on the show. It'd be reasonable to assume that the healthcare is pretty top notch. They even have an organic android body lying around on the table that Alton Inigo soon is working tirelessly on in order to be able to bring to life. So upon arriving on the planet, you think, oh, maybe they're advanced enough to actually fix Picard's brain abnormality. That makes sense. What you definitely not thinking is, oh, I hope they put Picard into that Frankensteinian body that's lying on that table over there. And they even call it a golem. It can't be much worse than that. But yeah, they do. And it's awful. If they'd instead used part of it, like taking parts of its brain, it could be a nice statement like, is he human? Is he android? Does it matter? Instead, he's just straight up an android now, or synthetic constructs, if you prefer that. Complicated family matters take time, and there's no reason why this should be any different. But the last episode of the season was pretty much a mood board put together with duct tape and glitter glue, so they could have squeezed in a Skype call, space Skype call, to rough his son. The rest of the episode reads like they didn't know they'd been greenlit for season 2. They either knew they'd been greenlit for a new season and plan on exploring it further in that one, or they were just gonna leave it like that. I don't know, it's weird. If they didn't know they'd been approved for a second season when they did the last episode, why wouldn't they resolve this? But if they knew they'd been greenlit for a second season, which is the only thing that makes sense with leaving this plotline open, why did they resolve the other 5,000 plot lines in one go? Why not leave some of them cliffhangers? I actually really liked the show and it was very enjoyable. I just have some beef with that last episode and how they resolved things in it. Definitely still going to watch season 2 though. I'm actually quite excited about it. I will remember you.